Okay?
Yeah, action.
Okay. Hi and welcome to Iceland Review. My name is Ragnar Thomas and we're here today with Guðlaug Edda Hannesdóttir, Iceland's first athlete to qualify for the Olympic triathlon. Thanks for being with us. How are you today?
Yes, thank you. I'm good. Just getting down from all the excitement of the qualification and getting back into training and really excited to be here.
And this is not the greatest day to be running outside because we have a lot of volcanic mist apparently.
Yes.
But that's not going to be stopping you today?
No, not today, but definitely like a couple of days in a row, if it's like that, I would probably try to go a little bit inside. But today it's just so beautiful, and we have the sun out, so yeah, it's hard to say no to that in Iceland.
Nice. And how far are you running today? You just had swim training this morning?
Yes.
And we're running in the afternoon. How far are you? What's the schedule like today?
Yeah, so today is a little different because tomorrow I'm heading out to Spain for the preparation camps for the Olympics. Usually I would train like 3 times a day, but today it's only a swim this morning that I did, and then I have an hour running today, this afternoon, and yeah, everything just very easy to make sure I'm not too tired going into a travel day, and yeah, really excited about the pre-camp.
Great, yeah, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So I wanted to begin with maybe because one of the more remarkable things about your journey is the fact that you've overcome so many injuries, as you've spoken quite a bit about. And I'm not mistaken in saying that you had really 3 very serious injuries, beginning with the concussion in 2018, and then the hip surgery in 2021. And then last year you had a sort of recurrence of the hip injury, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about when did you feel it the first time last year when it resurfaced again? Do you remember the moment when it started bothering you?
Yeah, I can remember. It was, I had been like under quite a lot of training stress and just life stress in general. And I think I wasn't able to maybe manage it in the best way at that time. I did the best that I could with the knowledge I had, but yeah, I was just keeping on pushing because, you know, it was only like a year to the Olympics and I felt a lot of pressure to keep pushing, and I was just doing my normal run and I just felt something strange in that area of like the pelvis. It was a little different than the first one, but still like in that area, and I think I was, you know, it made me very scared, and I was hoping to be able to kind of, you know, that I would just be able to train just a little less and it would eventually go away. But after a couple of months it was obvious that I needed you know, more recovery, and like, you know, I needed medical assistance. And yeah, it was really devastating because, as you said, the first hip injury was bad, and I really struggled through at times, so I think I was very scared.
Did this occur during training, or was it during the tournament? It was during training.
It happened during training when I was preparing for the World Series. It was in February last year. So yeah, it was a hard time, and yeah, the second time around, like with it kind of like not the same, but you know, in that area it was very stressful, and I think I was very sensitive at the time, and I was struggling to accept that I was injured.
I can imagine. And do you remember were you training here, or was it
Yes, I was on the treadmill in World Class, which is on one of our local gyms here,
right.
Where I felt something just give in, like strange, and you know, I remember like calling one of my loved ones and, you know, telling him like there's something strange I felt, and but I tried not to panic, and you know, I tried to train through it, but it wasn't getting better, unfortunately, and I needed to take a lot of time off. So actually last year I didn't train properly for probably like 8 months. That's a long time.
From March to October, I think you said somewhere, which is a ridiculously long time, given that you've now qualified for the Olympics.
Yeah, it was really long, and I think it just, you know, it was, so like being able to get back was not only like getting back into training, like I needed to just start from complete scratch, and that's really scary when you have so little time to prepare.
Exactly, yeah, and I want because you mentioned that you actually considered quitting at some point, and there's a lot of sort of parallels with, as you mentioned yourself, almost because the doctor told you after you'd gotten injured and you were forced to take time off that he would almost have to treat you like an alcoholic because you were essentially in withdrawal from the dopamine and the serotonin that you get from training so hard.
Yeah.
And similar to maybe alcoholics as well, you seem to have hit almost a kind of rock bottom. Do you remember, was there a moment which you felt that you were at your absolute low point?
Yes.
Can you paint a picture for us?
Yeah, like 100%. I think, so like looking back to last year, definitely like, yeah, we needed to, because when you're training like I am, for this like only like this specific, really specific goal, and you put all of your time and effort, like there's so much investment of just your time and your energy. And I think when you train as much as I do with a sport that's, it's all about getting dopamine, right? Like you get so much dopamine from exercising, and I exercise a lot because that's what I need to do for my sport. I think, going from like 20, 30 hours a week of full training to almost zero, I think I definitely there was I felt some hormone or like imbalances in my brain, and it took a really long time to stabilize. So I'm really happy that he made that kind of comment that you need to treat yourself like almost and an alcoholic and or like a person that struggles with addiction, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So because you definitely get addicted to the training and stuff. But yeah, I mean kind of like last summer was all like very low, I would say. But I remember now that I just raced a couple of weeks ago, and I read over my journal that I was writing last summer, and actually I think it was like maybe the 15th or 16th of August last year where I wrote in my diary, I don't think I have ever felt as low. Like I feel like I'm like absolutely hit rock bottom. And at the time I thought I had already hit it, but I think that day there was something, I think that was after I had the surgery, and I was alone in a rehab clinic, like far away from my loved ones. And there was a lot of things going on like in my life in general, and a lot of stress about, if I would be able to come back to my sport. Like you just said, I had considered quitting. And I think at that time I just didn't see how I could do it, right? It just seemed very impossible. And I think that day, it was a rough day. It was close to the surgery. I couldn't really move my body. I didn't feel like myself, and that was like a low moment, definitely.
Where was the rehab clinic?
I went to a rehab clinic in Colorado. They have a very specialized rehab clinic there that treats specifically hips. So they had like very specialized physios, and I think honestly, like all of the work that I did there was the foundation of being able to come back. So I'm really happy I went. It was very difficult, especially like when you're going through something very hard. You just want to be with your loved ones, and you want to be with the people that you care about. And I was just, completely alone there, and it was very hard, but I learned a lot of things, and I'm happy I did because it was worth it.
Yeah, great. I want to sort of rewind the clock back to your earlier days. I mean, you did some gymnastics when you were younger.
Yes.
And then, of course, you were a swimmer for most of your sort of adolescence and teenage years. And as you've said yourself that, you felt that you were a pretty good swimmer, but not a great one.
Yes.
And when did you, just by curiosity, come to the sort of realization that, you were not going to be among the best swimmers in the world? Or do you remember those thoughts crossing your mind?
I think I never really thought that I even could. So maybe like if I would have had a little more belief in myself, like maybe I would have reached a little like higher in swimming. Like I was part of the youth national team, and I competed in the Nordic championships like when I was a teenager. So I had I had a sniff of elite sports, but I just never I struggled a lot, I was just like, when you develop, like going from a child to a teenager, like those years were, kind of rough. I wasn't really improving that much. And, but I think I was always really fascinated by just high performance in general. Like I had really good friends in swimming that qualified for the Olympics in 2012 and 2016. And I just remember like thinking, both that they were so, awesome, and I really respected how hard they worked. And I always like wished that I could be that in the same way, but I guess swimming was not the perfect fit for me. So I'm really happy that I found triathlon because, I think even as a child, like I was always, I liked high performance. Like I really liked to work hard, push myself. I was, always at every single training session, like didn't skip anything. I was very motivated, I think, as a child and a teenager. But just swimming wasn't the best fit for me. Yeah.
Do you remember when you first heard of the triathlon as an event, when it sort of came onto your radar?
Yes, so I guess I kind of stopped swimming. That would have been maybe in 2013 or 14, around that, so like 10 years ago or so. And I started, running just to keep fit, more like, just for fun and have something to do. But I always missed that kind of like high performance, and I think I put all of my energy into school. But then like I got a call from, I never really knew much about triathlon. Like I thought it was always just Ironman and the longer stuff, like the longer, races. And I never knew anything about Olympic triathlon, but I got a call from one of the guys in the Icelandic Federation. That was probably in 2016. Yeah, 2016, like mid-year 2016. And he called me and he was like, you're a solid swimmer, like you have a great swimming background and you're also good in running. Like we think this might be a good fit for you. And kind of like from there it snowballed, and I think I was just really fascinated with, number one, like, okay, this is like a different sport. Maybe like this is something that could fit for me. And I also liked the challenge of like, okay, I know nothing about this sport. I'm, probably really bad at it, but I would like to see how far I can go.
Yeah.
So
Who was this person, by curiosity? Who called you?
Yeah, his name is Håkon Trapp.
And where did he hear about you? Or,
so his daughter is a swimmer. And I think he just always followed kind of like the swimming world. And then he's a runner himself, like does a lot of running. So he saw, some of my results. And I think he just kind of connected the dots and, kind of connected that I was a swimmer and I could swim pretty well because, as I told you, I was part of like the youth squad and the, when I was a teenager, like with the with the Nordic champs.
Yeah.
So he knew that I could swim and he knew that I could run. So I think he just, He
put, 2 and 2 or 3 and 3.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of like put the threes together and thought, okay, maybe if we teach her how to bike, she could be golden.
How far were you running when you mentioned those times that he saw? Were you running the 10K then? Or?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I did like a couple of races on the track more just for fun, but nothing like I was like training specifically for, but it was more like a 5K and a 10K. And I think like one of my first races I was able to run, I think it was like a 37 or a high or 38 low 10K.
Wow.
Which is not like a crazy time, but for someone that has no running background and just started running, it was okay.
Yeah.
So he saw some potential and I'm really happy, he contacted me because
Was it love at first training session or?
Kind of. I mean, yes, I think so, because I really love to be outside too. I love to be out in nature and like I like to learn how to bike. I was never scared, so I'm really thankful that some people when they start to bike, they find it difficult because it's a little scary. You're going fast and you're training in a group and so on. But I never had that feeling. I just, really enjoyed being outside and I enjoyed to push my body. And I was really lucky to be able to, my first year in triathlon, I moved to Denmark and trained with the Danish national team. And I think the foundation that I got from them, made it so easy for me to fall in love with the sport because they were so nice and so welcoming and, really good people and they loved the sport. So I kind of fell in love with the sport through them. And then as soon as I started to race and I started to do good, you kind of get addicted and you want more results and you want to get better and you see all of these things that you can improve. So yeah.
So, and you were studying, was it political science in Denmark?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I did my degree kind of like, so I already had done a little bit in Iceland and then I finished it in Denmark. So I was able to make like a transfer program or some kind of cooperation between the schools. So I finished my studies there.
Nice. And I mean, you essentially start training in 2016 and am I right in thinking that by 2017 you were already among the top triathletes in Europe? I mean, you were really, the results were really quite astounding for how. So what is it that makes you such a great fit? I mean, besides, of course, you have the swimming background, you started running. What do you think that, really propelled you so quickly forward in the triathlon versus swimming? Do you have any theories?
So I think, maybe like I probably developed a little too fast, honestly. Like I wish, maybe I would have gone a little slower because it's a lot to take in, right? To coming from essentially like no background to one of the like top content, like really good, even in like you said, like European champs, and I had some good results at the World Cups, which is very high level for us. So it was really fast and probably like a little scary, but I think it's probably multifaceted. I think I have a strong physiology for endurance sports, so I have very big engine, and I think that helped me be able to train and also like absorb the training, and I think I'm a quick learner, and like so also probably my mental side, just like very motivated, and when I do something I like to do it really well. And I think when I started I just didn't really put any end cap on me. I was just like, okay, let's see how far I can push. And I had this, obviously, like I had dreamed a little bit about the Olympics after seeing my friends in swimming do qualify and do some good results there. And it was just something that I kind of like had in my mind that I would love to do, and I wanted to see if I could. And probably a mix of physiology and mental. But like with swimming, I think swimming is a very technical sport, and I started swimming quite late. Like I was 12 years old when I started swimming. Mm-hmm. Many of the swimmers that like become very good, they start earlier. So I think maybe like technically I wasn't as good as many of the others, although I had very big engine. But I think I also got my big engine from swimming, because I was swimming all my childhood as a teenager. So already when I started triathlon, like I had a very, very big lung capacity, and I think that helped me absorb the training.
Exactly. And I mean, having listened to and read a number of interviews with you, you seem, I mean, maybe more so than other people, quite fascinated with this Olympic dream. Mm-hmm. Does that begin somewhere in 2016, 17, once you were, and what do the Olympics mean to you? Why do you have any childhood memories of watching the Olympics with your family, or was there any special moment that, every athlete, of course, dreams of the Olympics, but it seems especially sort of poignant in your case. Yeah,
it's true. True. It's interesting. I think, like, as a child, I didn't really dream of the Olympics in that way. My first memory is, watching Michael Phelps win his, many medals, gold medals in 2008. So I just remember being kind of like fascinated by it. And I think maybe like watching my friends go, like just seeing how hard they worked and like seeing them, be able to do this, like, qualify for this like big stage. I thought it was just like both so cool and also just like fascinating. And I think probably my dream of the Olympics was born out of that. And I remember but I never thought I could. I remember in 2016, one of my friends, he raced the Olympics in swimming, and I remember talking with him, and he said like that was when I was starting to do triathlon, and I wasn't even thinking about the Olympics. I was just like, oh, this is a cool sport. Like I would love to do it. I mean, I knew it was like an Olympic sport, and I thought that was cool. And I remember him saying like, okay, next time, like you'll be with me, like we'll, and from there I was like, okay, maybe, let's see. And I think when I started to race in 2017 and actually seeing that I was capable, that was probably when I was like, okay, and then kind of like the obsession came.
So he planted the seed maybe in that conversation?
Probably, yeah. I mean, definitely like that was the first time that I actually like thought, okay, maybe, if I work hard and I do good, maybe I'm able to actually to go there. But yeah, it took a lot of, I've doubted it many times and not always believed in myself. But I think sometimes it became too much. Like I was too focused on the Olympics instead of just like wanting to improve. And I think I can learn something from that, that like one goal, it's like never about that one goal. And I think that's what I'm seeing now, although it's so amazing to have actually like accomplished this and like been able to like actually I'm qualified. I think what I'm like mostly reflecting on is just like the journey. And I think everyone was telling me like it's all about the journey, and you hear that and you think, okay, yeah, but it's I want to try to achieve the goal. But I think I'm really realizing that, and I've realized like especially through the last injury bout and coming back from that, like how important it is just to enjoy the journey because it's so special. And I think I also was fascinated by how it can develop you as like a person, like mentally, physically. So it's probably again like multifaceted, and I've doubted myself many times and sometimes been too obsessed. But it's my story. So it's
I want to go back to your injury last year and this sort of very fateful, pivotal conversation that you had with Viestedt, which you described before. Can you tell us a little bit about this meeting? So maybe for the audience, you were struggling through injury, you were doubting whether you could continue as a triathlete. The Olympic dream seemed very far away at this moment. And then you meet with, essentially he's the head of elite coaching in Iceland, right?
He's just head of like kind of like the elite department as a whole.
Right.
And
what was it like? What do you remember the day? Where did you meet? What was the conversation? I want you to go into all the details possible.
So basically, that was in the start of July. I want to say maybe like around the 6th of July or something like that. So I had gotten injured in like February, and I stopped training in March. And then from there on, it was just like a constant struggle between like physios and doctors. And I think I was also just really agitated because I was very nervous about, would I be able to come back? And like I was scared about the injury and what it meant. And it took a long time to get like a proper diagnosis and some help. And I had kind of, and I had just come home from Germany where I had like some treatments for a couple of like 3-4 weeks there. And I was just really struggling. Like, I think I was at a very low point just in my life in general. And I did not have a lot of belief in myself. Like my self-confidence was very low. And, I walked into this meeting with him, and it was kind of like, we were discussing like the next steps. And he was like, I think you should, go for this treatment option that we have here. And I think I had had so many treatments before at that point that I was like, I don't even know if it's gonna work. And he was like, but I think it could. And I was like, but I don't know how long I can go on. Like, I'm really struggling and I can't see like a way out and I don't know what to do. And maybe I'm not cut out for this. Like, maybe I'm not, like made to be an athlete, right? And I think that was like a doubt that I had in my mind. And he was just like, no, like, it's not true. And he kind of like, I don't know how he did it, but I think he read me as a person, and he saw like, I'm, like a perfectionist, and I like to do things well, and I like to, I think he was able to read me really quickly and kind of like present the idea of like this treatment as like, this is something that you should do. We believe in it. You believe in it. And then he kind of told me that he believed in me too. And I think I had like lost so much belief in myself, and I felt like a lot of people around me had too, that just having him tell me, actually, like, I believe in you, and I could see it in his eyes that he meant it, that it just lit a fire, I guess, like in my heart. And it just meant a lot to know that, like, he is there to support me, like, and he believes in me and he sees something in me. And it was like the first time that someone told me that, you know, that like he thinks I have what it takes. And I think because for a lot of my career coming from Iceland, like with very maybe limited support, I have done so much alone, like traveled alone, done a lot of races on my own, and just having a person that's so skilled in sports and knows so much about sports in general and like athletes actually tell me that, I knew he meant it. And I think that helped kind of like reignite the fire. And so I tried to keep in good contact with him after, you know, with my rehab, and also when I started to race again. It meant a lot to just, you know, be able to share it with him, because I really respect him a lot, and I think I would not have qualified if he hadn't helped me, not only about the treatment, but also just like him telling me that he believed in me.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, you know, you don't need anything more than just someone to tell you they believe in you and actually mean it.
Yeah.
And you can kind of feel the energy, right? And I felt like he never lost belief in me. And, you know, when I started to race again, I never felt a doubt in his mind. And that helped me not doubt myself.
Yeah, there's like almost a curious through line emerging in this conversation where, you know, you always seem to have some kind of outside voice come to you and tell you, hey, I think you would be great for the triathlon. And you say, oh yeah, maybe that's right. Mm-hmm. And then someone saying, hey, I think you could make the Olympics. And you saying, yeah, maybe that's right. And then when you're giving up, someone comes and says, well, you know, I think you're really good at this and you should keep going. So do you think you've started to believe more in yourself now?
Maybe I think it means maybe that I'm like, I'm just a social person, and I like to have people around me, and it means a lot like to have a team, and I've never had like a big team, so I really respect the people that have believed in me like every step of the way, and I think I'm here because of them. But yeah, I think it's true. Like one of my probably biggest struggles as an athlete has just been probably lack of self-belief, like not feeling good enough, and you know, having kind of this fear or doubt mindset, and it probably, you know, is something that I have had in me. But I think now, coming back from the injury, like I've really learned that I need to let it go, and like really need to learn how to trust more, and believe in myself a little more, because I have, especially like this year, there was nothing pointing that I should qualify. I was so far away in the start of the year that I think nobody would have bet on me, maybe like one or two people, but nobody else. So I think it really taught me that I need to have faith both in myself and, you know, in the team around me. And I think and that's the beauty about sports, is that, you know, and this thing about the Olympic dream is like how much it has developed me as a person. Like it's amazing, and I'm so thankful to have, you know, this opportunity, and I feel very privileged to be in this position. And so I'm very happy that, you know, of all the learning lessons I've had.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think also, I mean, it may speak to your sort of own lack of self-belief, but also just the importance of having a strong network around you.
Yes.
You know, growing up in, I mean, that's one of the problems people have discussed about Iceland. It's very hard being an elite athlete here. You have to fight for your right to exist, to survive.
Yes.
And hopefully we're working on that. But now I want to get into, so earlier this year you took part in, was it 5 tournaments, right?
Yes.
And there was, the way you've described it, there was like a sort of load lifted from your shoulders because there was no pressure on you. No one thought it would be realistic for you to come back and, you know, qualify for the Olympics in such a brief time. But you managed to do so by, you know, placing very highly in all of these tournaments. First, there were 2 tournaments in Africa, and then 3 in Asia.
Yes.
And I want you maybe to set the scene for us going into the final tournament in Osaka, right?
Yes.
You felt that you were, you know, on the cusp of qualifying. You'd made good progress, that you were almost there, but you knew that if you would make it to the podium in Japan, that you would probably be a shoo-in for the Olympics.
Yes.
And you said that you sort of dug deeper than you have ever done in your career as an athlete. So can you describe what's that like? Were you just pushing yourself harder? was your perspective different? Was it your view on pain, or
Yeah.
what do you think it, what does that mean? Because
Yeah.
you've mentioned it, digging
Yeah.
really deep.
I think, coming into like all of those races, like I tried to have as little pressure on myself as I could, and I just tried to focus on only what I can control, because I knew my shape is not as I want it to be. Like, it's not 100% yet, because it takes time to come back after an injury. But coming into that race, like, I knew I was in a very strong position, but I still, like, I wanted to solidify. And for me, in my mind, I felt like there's been like so many struggles, and it's been a really difficult journey. So like in my mind, I was like, I really want to make the podium. Like, it was like, something that I had in my mind, but I knew, you never know, right? Because the other girls, you don't know how strong they are and how much they push. But I think, just really like dug really deep. Like on the swim, I was able to, keep my good position, and on the bike, I was able to go like at a solo breakaway, like alone at the front for a couple of laps before being reeled back in. But like I knew I was kind of like able to push myself really hard without being forced. And then on the run, I had a bad transition, so I started the run maybe around 10th spot. And I had still in my mind, like, I have this Olympic qualification, like, this is like my dream, this is what I have been working towards the last like 7-8 years, and I just really, really want it. And I could just feel in my body just something like, I want this now, and I will do everything that I can to make it to that podium, because I want to solidify it and I want to celebrate. And I think it was like something mental. I was just able to kind of push aside the feelings of pain, like you said, and just really push.
What are you thinking? Like, was that the most difficult moment? Is probably the run towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
What's your process like when you're? I mean, I imagine you were quite close to springa, like we say in Icelandic, where you just explode and you give up. I imagine you must have flirted with that line. What are you thinking, and what's your mindset like? Do you have any kind of like...
I think like in the start, I was just thinking about reeling the others in. Like I saw, and I was just thinking about one girl at a time, just get close to that one, to the next one, to the third one, to the fourth one. And then when I was like at the fourth girl, that was like already like almost at the end of the first lap. So there's like 2 laps on the run. And then I had 1 more lap to go, and I caught up with her. And I think I never had that feeling of like, I want to give in, because I don't know, like maybe the years of hardship kind of like flashed before my eyes, if you can say so. But like, I think I just really knew that I really wanted it. And I think I was willing to hurt. And when you're in kind of like that feeling of like, I'm ready to hurt, it just feels more like flowy. So I never felt, it felt really hard and I was really pushing myself, but I never had that thought of like giving up. But I have often had that, like, you feel like you can't go any further. But I just felt like after everything, like maybe if this is the last race I'll ever do, I wanna finish every single ounce of energy I have. So I think in the start I was just thinking about the other, like reeling one at a time. And then when I was in the 3rd spot, I was just trying to maintain my pace and make sure that the girls behind would not think they could catch up, and trying to see if I could come closer to the podium, but like to this 1st or 2nd spot. But it was 3rd. But I think just mentally, like after my injury last time, something kind of clicked. And obviously I will have bad days and probably bad races after this, like you never know, right? But I think it really taught me that, like, even though it's hard, like my prep before that race, like Osaka wasn't perfect, with a lot of travels and stuff. And I was like, was sore and so on. So I wasn't like training 100%, but it didn't matter, because like the only thing that matters is just what I'm doing now. And right now I'm pushing myself as hard as I can. And I know it's gonna be okay,
Right, yeah.
So it's maybe less fear of hurting.
Yeah, and also it's interesting what you said about I mean, as someone who participated in sports myself and still goes to the gym from time to time, I think you learn with pain that if you can break it into small, discrete
Exactly.
moments, and when you focus on, okay, just, I'm going to catch up to this one.
Yeah.
And then, okay, can I push myself to do this? It becomes a lot more manageable when you break it into these sort of smaller slices of time.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like smaller goals within the race without, being specific goals, but it's kind of like a smaller,
And that's why I think there's a psychological evidence to support the fact that it's the beginning of the race is easiest and the end because you have sort of clear goals, but then in the middle is always the most difficult because there are no sort of differentiating markers. And then I want to move on to the moment when you get the news that you've qualified. You were on a plane, right?
Yes.
And how did that work? Did you get an email and were you connected to Wi-Fi?
Yeah. So no, actually, like I had, I was on my way to, I was supposed to have like a 12-hour flight to Iceland, and like I was connected to like an airport Wi-Fi, and then it was only for an hour. So my hour had run out, and I was like not connected. But I was just sitting there and I had like a weird feeling because I obviously knew that the news were gonna come that day or the day after.
Yeah.
And I was just like sitting, waiting to get on the plane, and I was like, okay, I had this like weird feeling, and I feel like I should just, maybe check my phone. So I turned on my 5G, which you shouldn't do, but I did just, to check. I don't know, I had like a feeling.
Yeah.
And then I had a message from one of the guys in Triathlon Iceland, and he was like, can I please call you? Like, I need to call you now. So I knew that something was happening, and then I saw that the VS State that we already, the sport director, he had also texted me, have you heard the news? But he didn't say what news, so I was like, oh! So I called the guy from Triathlon Iceland, and he told me that we just got the news. The Olympic Committee and World Triathlon have published the start list for the Olympics, and you are in it, you're qualified. And I was obviously just like ecstatic, and then I called Viestin afterwards, and it was really fun to also talk with him and like be able to share the excitement, because I feel like he has worked with me to be able to do this. So that was kind of like the moment, and then I was supposed to get on that plane, and I was like, oh my god, so I had to like disconnect my 5G, wait to get on the plane, and then obviously as soon as we were on like up in the air, I turned on the airplane Wi-Fi, and I was on the Wi-Fi for like 12 hours when I was supposed to sleep, but I was on the phone like talking to my friends and family, and because it means a lot to share it with them, and
Definitely. And there was someone sitting next to you who was quite worried about your mental state.
Yeah, I think I was I don't know, I was just sweating a lot because I think it was like the adrenaline, and then I was kind of like, with tears in my eyes, but also laughing and like on the phone, and she was like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. And and I told her like, I just qualified for the Olympics, and I've, worked hard for this, and so I was, she was like, okay, I can understand, but it was an interesting flight. Yeah.
I can imagine. So just a few questions towards the end. I just want to ask, what do you think is a sort of reasonable goal for the Olympics? What are you hoping to achieve, or are you even thinking of it in those terms? Or?
I think I will try not to think about any placing. The only thing I'm thinking about is just having a really strong race and being able to use my strengths. And I think my strengths are definitely right now the swimming and the bike. So I think my goal is to optimize that and try to push the swim and the bike, and then see what happens, because I think anything can happen. So I try to have that kind of mindset, because I don't want to put too much pressure on myself, because I just come back from injury and it takes time. But obviously I have some dreams, but I just want to have a good, strong race and, be able to cross the finish line and be proud of myself and represent my country well.
Great. And just lastly, I noticed this morning, and you've mentioned before that this season, beginning earlier this year, this was the first time that you were traveling with a coach.
Yes.
And that seems quite insane to me, frankly. And also, this morning you were at the pool by yourself, and I don't know, I just had this picture of athletes all around the world with, a coach or you know, a whole team around them
Yeah.
in the run up to the Olympics. So, I mean, what does that feel like? I mean, I imagine it must be somehow difficult being by yourself.
Yeah, I think definitely. Like, I'm just really grateful to, you know, have been able to this year actually like travel with, you know, my coach has been with me. But yeah, I train a lot alone and have traveled a lot alone. So, and I think that's also like probably has, you know, not helped me. So I'm hoping that like now that I have more opportunity to actually like train with people that and travel with my coach, that you know will help me, you know, be able to manage everything better. So
Yeah.
I have a positive feeling about it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
And we won't distract you from your training.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for the interest and yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great.